I'm James.
I'm Katina,
And
and
we're
we're
connecting
connecting
with
with
the
the
Collins.
Collins. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is in the world where you are today, we're just glad you decided to connect with us. Will you do us a favor? Will you like
Share.
and hit the bell down below to subscribe and share the content with someone you know?
Awesome. Awesome. That was good. Okay, so what is our today's subject?
So we're talking about communication. This is
Communicating. Okay.
still the month of March, and we're talking about communication. And everybody that we know is talking about Will Smith
Yes,
and
the slap.
so we thought it would be beneficial
Mm-hmm.
to actually talk about this form of communication, if you will,
Yeah.
from the perspective of the husband and wife.
Mm.
Everyone that we have talked with, people who have asked us questions in the store, we're walking in the store and strangers are asking us,
Isn't that something?
yeah, what do you
Yeah.
think about what took place? And a lot of people are have been taking the perspective of, does this impact the black culture? Physical violence. We all know physical violence is not appropriate at any time.
It's a no.
Yeah, but when we watched this together,
Mm-hmm.
it actually hit close to home for us,
Okay.
right? Because it wasn't too long ago that
Mm-hmm.
that Jay actually had to stand up and defend my honor as his wife. And when we think about communication, sometimes depending on who it is that is making the statement, sometimes dictates for some people how they respond to it. And so we're going to take a few minutes to actually talk about the perspective of a wife,
Mm-hmm.
perspective of a husband,
Yeah.
and kind of dissect this, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start, or you want me to?
So with the story, what she was alluding to is that there was some charges being brought up on my wife, and it happens to be from a higher authority. I'll put it that way. And normally, as my duty, I would probably was to coincide and agree with the higher authority, and so in the hope that we can correct it on my wife's end. But I knew there was so many different allegations that was not true. It was almost like they had built up a case against her, and I had to say, wait a minute, I know my wife. I know she's not perfect, but that's not her character. What you're saying is not her character. So the story kept going on and on. And so finally, my wife got tired and said, "Well, I just won't be a part of this anymore." And so that individual looked at me and said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I just said, I'm not going to be here either. Because I'm not, with these allegations and all this other stuff, and you want us to always correct stuff on our end, but sometimes the high authority can be wrong. And so I had to stand up and say, I agree with my wife, on this because, I've seen this go down for years, and it's always been something that, has not been the greatest, and it's, I get it. I said, well, maybe we're just not the right people for your
Organization. Right?
So, cutting it short, the room got real silent. It was a stalemate. It was like, this is weird. This has never happened before. So something about the man in me kind of grew up and say, wait a minute, you know. But I did it tactfully and I did it tastefully. That's the
You didn't
difference.
hit anybody.
I didn't hit nobody. I didn't, you know, because there's always got to be a better way of going about that, you know. So, and I think that's the difference in this one. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and so we'll talk about a little bit more about that. But that was basically the story.
Yeah, you know, and from a wife's perspective, and even as I watched Jada's face, you know, we have been talking about you know, verbal communication and nonverbal communication, and as a wife, you know, there is a such thing as covering, or there is a expectation, if you will, that as your wife, we anticipate you're going to stand up for us. It doesn't mean that there should be violence involved,
Right.
but certainly taking the position of your wife. And I've heard people talk about, Jada should have stopped him in that moment. I get it. You know, certainly we do have the voice of reason for our husbands, and oftentimes we can grab a hand or grab a leg or pull on a shirt or whatever the case may be.
Signal calling.
Yeah, you
Signal
know,
calling, yeah.
but sometimes we don't. Things happen so quickly, we don't know
Right.
what direction they're going to move in. But I believe that in that moment when I saw her face, her husband saw her face as well.
Yeah.
And it moved him to the place where I've now got to respond, and he just did it in the incorrect way.
Yeah.
And when I think back to the times where my husband did not stand up for me, in the moment where he stood up was in the moment that it counted the most. Does that make sense? So for all the multiple times prior to that, kind of to the edge, if you will, it had reached a place where there was no other direction. You were either going to go off the cliff with me, or you were going to be left on the cliff with that organization.
Right.
And I think, again, in that moment, the decision to hear my husband stand up verbally on my behalf was very important.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's one thing that we talk about. I got your back, or this, that, and the other. But it's another thing to go through the fire.
Yeah.
With that, with your mate, and actually show them,
Yeah.
not just talk about it, but be about it.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was at in that point in time, because it wasn't a matter about you know, my position with the organization, and it didn't matter about what I had to gain or lose by siding with somebody, that individual. And so my thing was, I had to recollect. Wait a minute, that's my wife. What are you saying to her? You're saying to me.
Yeah.
We're one. And so I'm like, wait a minute now, you know. And so that had to. It was a challenge because I loved them both. I loved the organization. I gave my life for that organization, but I also married. You know, I'm committed to her. So it was a real challenging decision I had to make. But I believe I made the best decision because I live with my wife. You know, this is my ride or die.
That's real.
You can always get another position, you know, if that's what you're seeking after. But, you know, I think it was a test in our marriage to say, what are you going to do? You know? And so my wife was like, yeah, what are you going to do? Answer the man's question. Are you stay or are you going to go? I'm like, well, I mean, I can already tell. If this is how you been feeling a certain way about, you know, for so many years. I'm like, I'm not going to sit around and let you just keep disrespecting us.
Yeah.
Because now it was us. Because of what you said to her, you basically saying to me, you know.
It's true. And,
Yeah.
and you know, we've been hearing people talk about, you know, the womanizing. But at the end of the day, when I look at that situation, it really came down to, this is my wife.
Yeah,
Right? And,
yeah,
and I get so many different perspectives and
right.
all. I think, you know, what we really wanted to come on to today and talk about was that communication
Yeah,
and understanding, because again, the situation really hit home for us, and here we are as we started off. You know, we're in this 30 year,
yeah,
and it could have been a much different story. I think, you know, it would have been different dynamics, had my husband not stand up for me.
Could have
Right,
been.
because
Yeah,
I you know, there's so many things. You can lose respect for a person. You can, you know, lose the honor, the trust, and all of those things, because we took the vows, for better for worse, and that meant, forsaking all others.
yeah,
Right, that we cleaved unto each other.
yeah. It's just showing that getting or having each other's back. And so my thing was, when I saw, because and I agree, Will did laugh with the crowd, because it just tickled his funny bone for a second, but when he saw his wife, and I think it was just a familiar pain that the battles behind closed doors, what she's dealing with, and it was like, now we got to remember, I'm gonna do a little flashback. 2016, it was some darts thrown at Jada as well. So it wasn't a fact that he was hitting everybody in the room, which Chris Rock did, but he went to a specific thing about her head, you know, and so Will was like, "You're okay." 2016, we've been through this, but this time around, I'm not going to let you get away with this,
Yeah.
even if it means it's going to cost me my career, because now I'm fed up and I'm tired. But I don't agree with him using his hand.
No.
He should have said in his ear, "Hey, brother, we're gonna talk about this behind closed door.
Yeah.
We're gonna get this stuff ironed out. You know, keep doing what you do. I love you, so to speak.
Yeah.
You talk to a man as a man, because this is not the hood. This is not a playground. This is not, and we're not kids. We're grown men at the top of their careers.
Yeah.
And I really feel bad for Will, because he's not going to be known for his award. He's going to be known for the hit, and so that's going to me, in my eyes, going to forever tarnish this man's career.
Yeah.
And people say, they ask the old famous question, does it look, black people look bad? I'm gonna say this. Will looks bad,
Yeah.
and it's not. I feel sorry for Will, because number one is, you know, it makes him and his family looks bad, you know. But you had other black folks in there that just did outstanding. Did outstanding, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think he represents the black people. I just think you can't take hood tactics on that type of level, because it will bite you in the end.
It's true.
So here's the
true.
thing. They're not going to ban black people from going.
No.
They'll probably just ban Will. So I'm saying it doesn't represent all black people.
No.
So to me personally, I disagree with that statement.
Yeah.
Now, I would commend Chris Rock for not retaliating.
Yeah.
Because
he could have took it all the way.
Because then it would have been over. It would have been over.
Yeah.
Lights out. Look, no one getting no rewards.
Sam
Awards
wouldn't have got
tonight.
his stuff, right?
Exactly.
Samuel wouldn't have got it.
And so,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. And Chris, everybody say, oh, if it was somebody else, it may not. Well, thank God it wasn't on anybody else, because I believe Chris, by not pressing charges and all of that, I look, that's a kind of embarrassment that can really challenge you and see if your humbleness.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I would, and as I, as thinking about this, and I thought, God, what is it that we want to walk away from and leave with our, connecting with the Collins fam. And I think really it is one, we can control our behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, that's number one. Two, for those who are married, you really got to consider that, forsaking all others, it doesn't matter who it is. I don't care what the authority is. If there is someone who is offending my husband, right? If there's a female that is disrespecting him, that it's my responsibility to step to the plate and have a conversation, right? Him as my husband, if there's a male that is offending me or belittling me, then the expectation is that he would step to the plate.
Absolutely.
And I think parents, for your children, it doesn't mean that you go to the school wanting to fight, but you do need to make sure that you are supporting and covering and showing your support to your family.
Yeah.
And I don't care how loyal you are or have been to individuals or to organizations. At the end of the day, your family, you need to support them.
Rock, sorry, I commend Chris for, and I think Chris probably feel a little bit bad about this too, because I don't think it was a malicious hit, and then know the environment that you're going into. If you're going to a comedy club, don't sit on the front row. If we're going to obvious situations where they prone to pick at people in general,
right?
If you're mentally not there to take on that,
you're open prey.
You're open season. You're open season. You cannot take your what you think authority that you have to go up there and correct somebody. You're just
not above it.
You're not above it.
No,
and so that's the part that I'm disappointed in.
So let us just again encourage you that let's make sure that our character is right. Work on that character.
Because I'm hearing all of course, because it's what they're talking about. So everyone got their perspective, and that's fine too. You can have your perspective, but when it all comes down to it, let us pray for the situation and for the family.
And we're just again thankful that you tuned in today. As we concluded our March conversation on communication and how sad it had to be regarding this piece, but I think it's important that we touched it.
It's an eye opener. I would like to hear from you all. What is your comment? What is your feed? Do you agree? Not agree? Listen, we take it all. So, and we're not offended because that's you guys' honest opinion about the situation. So we would love to hear how you feel about it, and maybe we'll have a part 2 to this. I don't know, because it's not going away no time soon.
It's not.
And it's going to be here for a minute. But it is a great example. The next time you are your pinnacle, what would you do? So, you want to think about that.
Self-control.
Self-control. Because listen, I mean, that slap would have been a $200 million slap, but fortunately, it didn't take all of that. But sometimes God will allow just enough controversy just to get us to see where we at. But I understand the stand up that got him there. But even so, you have to think with your head.
And not with your fist. Think with your head and not with your fist. Wow. Even if it's a slap, listen, don't use your hand to communicate unless you're using sign language.
Listen, that's the truth.
All right. Okay. All right, y'all. That's it.
Love
Connecting
y'all.
with the Collins. Thank y'all for joining us. Whatever you do, don't stop communicating with your loved ones. Don't stop communicating. I don't care how much pain you may be in. I don't care how difficult it may be. Communication is the key to your success. Your loved one might be struggling. Don't stop communicating. All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Talk with y'all later. Have a good week.